known Valley View from where we live on Olinda is the Richmond Fire Station. And the garden outside, nobody ever really takes care of the property. So she put a thing out to next door, asking if anybody wanted to join her in just volunteering to go over there and clean it up and fix it up and make it much more attractive. And she's already gotten some other ladies to volunteer to do that. But I told her that's in Richmond and we needed to talk to you first. I don't know if there's permission that needs to be done or if Public Works is doing anything or whatever the case may be.
So I think it's probably okay, but they should definitely give the fire department a heads up.
Sure.
But I think that's the only thing that I can think of.
Okay, that's good. How did they reach somebody at the fire department?
All right, questions from the floor?
Hold on just a moment. Jim, shoot me an email tomorrow or tonight, and I'll find a contact with RSD for you.
And I just wanted to pop in.
Yeah,
Jim,
go ahead.
Sorry. I had actually approached UC Master Gardeners to suggest it's a demonstration Firewise garden. And they, well, no, it's not good. They did not have interest at this time, but they actually have a prior City of Richmond memorandum of understanding. So I could reapproach them, but it's kind of nice to just have it open to anybody and not have it kind of shut off.
Yeah.
So
no, that's right. There's one lady from when my wife went on and then kind of put out the word. There was one lady that lives right by it. She said, and she said she said it'd be fun to go over and work on it and clean it up and that kind of stuff. You know.
Well, so, I'll go look for your.
Jim, shoot me an email tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll still find a contact with the fire department for you.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be necessary.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Are there any questions or items from the floor for James? Okay.
Nothing that I see.
Nothing that I see either. So in that case, we'll go ahead to Lieutenant Buford for the sheriff's presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Buford. I cover the Sheriff's Base Station, which knows that encompasses El Sobrante. For the month of September, actually, guys, crime is pretty much status quo in the sense that guys actually had 55 calls less for service in this month, 821, as opposed to last month, 876. This month, we locked up 5 for warrants. Excuse me, I have the channel also, so I have to participate and I'm listening to the radio. 29, we stopped 29 vehicles, several people also on foot. 0 homicides, so that's really a good thing. Only 2 serious assaults for the month of September. I know like Rule 2, but we'd like to have 0, but that's actually very minimal. We did put out some rail safety information in September for just public information awareness along, so far as rail cars, whether in vehicles or whether in on foot. So hopefully you guys receive some of it, and hopefully it's helpful information. And with that being said, like I said, it's been a moderate month. I haven't gotten any calls really for complaints. And now, as you always know, the homeless and where it's not a crime, it's always an ongoing thing that we do deal with. I'm not going to say issue because they have their rights also. So I'll just say it's an ongoing item that we do deal with month to month. We've been dealing with it for years. So I'd imagine we will probably continue to do it. And that's pretty much it. With that, I'll open questions up to the board first.
Okay. Any questions I don't have any questions, Lieutenant Buford, thank you, but are there any other questions from the board? If there are no questions from the board, I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience for Lieutenant Buford. Okay. In that case, thank you so much for your present. Oh,
I'm sorry, I had my hand up. So,
okay, Ms. Bana, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and the information. I have a question because we are all very concerned about wildfire safety and want to make sure in case of a disaster or wildfire, evacuation can happen quickly. So I wonder if there are any evacuation routes planned or any evacuation plan. And also whether the city of Richmond and county have cooperation in this regard. Could you brief us on that, please?
Sure, I can't speak on the city of, but what I'll tell you is that we do have our emergency operations center. So there's a lot of things that go on that based on the type of disaster and the affected areas. So based on the areas, there's the type of disaster and a few other things that go into a thing. Then we come out with a plan how and if necessary to evacuate folks, whether we need to do our early warning system or other measures. But yes, ma'am, we do have things in place. And if it happens to be something that we need to coordinate with city of, then our EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Center, will do that. And as you know, we have built it just opened recently, a brand new state-of-the-art Emergency Operations Center over in Muir Road. So yes, ma'am, we do.
We haven't seen anything actually in terms of evacuation route from the city of Richmond, even though they told us they have something in place. That's why we are seriously concerned. I understand in case of an emergency, you'll do your best. However, in case of a wildfire in the Wildcat Canyon area and a real wildfire, which is a disaster, there's not enough time to plan something. For the worst case scenario, there should be something planned ahead of time. Has there anything been planned yet?
Yes, ma'am, we do have those things in place, but those things are very dynamic based on, it could be such as wind direction. Right. But we have also have things in place, and we have went through scenario-based exercises with City of Richmond and other first responders, Red Cross, PG&E, and other people at our EOC. So yes, ma'am, that does happen. Even though you might not see it, we do it.
Could you share that evacuation route? Because we need to know in case of an emergency where we should go.
Well, those routes,
I would like to hear that as well.
That's not going to be one static route, because if I tell you it's one route and then something happens and that closes, then we have to have something alternate. So it's what you call a very dynamic thing. So I can't tell you, yes, you're going to go down San Pablo Dam Road in this case. Now, mind you, San Pablo Dam Road is a major thoroughfare and probably would be used. But once again, I can't commit to saying, yes, we're going to use one street. I can't do that.
Okay, let's give you an example. Castro Ranch Road, in case of a fire, what happens to that? It is exit route for many people. What are they going to do? I mean, in terms of fuel reduction, fire prevention, making sure that some evacuation routes are safe during a wildfire.
Yes, but what you're attempting to do is provide something to you right now that I wouldn't have in front of me. Right. Once again, once we start seeing that those things happen, then we do activate the Emergency Operations Center, and routes are generated based on what we see happening. We do have things that can do pre-planned stuff. Here at Patrol Station, I just don't have that in front of me. A lot of those information is covered at our EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Center. That's where all the disaster, wildfire planning, and all those things take place. I wouldn't really necessarily keep those, but believe me, in a heartbeat, that information is disseminated down to patrol, and assets and things are, allocated to make sure that we can get you guys and girls and, whoever out, as safely as possible and as fast and expedient as possible.
I do believe you, but with all due respect, in the next meeting, can we have a sample evacuation route with us? You can assume when goes any direction you wish, but provide us with some exemplary plans. We would appreciate it.
Sure, I can tell you right now if something happened and we needed to use, San Pablo Dam Road, then yes, we'll use San Pablo Dam Road. As just a static example, yes, we'll use San Pablo Dam Road. Yes, we'll use Valley View. Yes, we'll take you guys out through a render based on this. No, we'll move you back to the city and take you out through San Pablo and put you in the staging area over here. It's just very dynamic. So that is actually an example. It just really depends on what in reality happens.
So in the interest of
just hold on.
Tom, can I add something?
Please go ahead.
John, just a second.
Sure.
Christine, Ms. Mattias, I want to let you know that I do see your hand up, but please go ahead, John. Thank you.
I wanted to help answer it, and I know if I think this is an example of where Chief Brochard and the Sheriff's Department can present together, because I know some of you have been on some of the meetings that we've had with the Wildcat Canyon work group, which we have fire chiefs from all the fire agencies involved. and there were questions asked about evacuation routes in every community. And what I've heard the chief say, and I think you should have them come on with the sheriff's department, is while all the streets you named are possible evacuation routes, but as the lieutenant said, there's not one, because there are multiple permutations of a fire, of, yes, wind speed, wind direction, where the fire started, other conditions or things that may be happening. And that's the purpose of the EOC, right? And why everybody also should sign up so that their cell phones are in part of the community warning system, so that you get notification immediately through your cell phone about, because it's just like when there's a fire or a chemical release at a refinery, they don't know, right, what areas shelter in place until they know the wind speed and the wind direction and of that. Same, and the fire is even more so. And I think I heard Chief Brochard explain it like, yes, we know all these different possible evacuation routes. We would be doing a disservice to say this is your route out, because if the fire started somewhere and blocked that route, you're sending people in the wrong direction. So anyway, I think having the fire chief, and there are not just 5 different alternative scenarios, there are literally dozens of different scenarios that could happen in a fire that starts out in the El Sobrante Valley, or, Wildcat Canyon or Castro Ranch Road. So I think it'd be good having, and I know some of you have again, I think gone to these Wildcat Canyon meetings, but we can have the fire chief be available with the lieutenant. He's exactly right about all of this. The EOC sort of looks at this.
So I think there are sort of 2 critical items here. One of them is for people to have their cell phones registered in the system, where the up-to-date instructions, whatever they are, because they're really going to vary depending on the conditions of the fire, you have to have your phone registered so that you get those instructions. And then I think it would be helpful, perhaps in the next meeting, for somebody to present what the various considerations are in determining the exit routes, and how you would, how we would choose between different routes based on the conditions.
And by the way, people can sign up for the cell phone by going to the Sheriff's Department Community Warning System webpage.
Yeah.
John, I just want to say that in case of a disaster or a wildfire, there will be no power. If PG&E goes down, then all the cell towers will go down. There is no cell phone communication. So we expect the fire community and the police department or sheriff to be prepared enough to do very quick evacuation and other ways of informing people. It's not that we don't trust them. We know everybody's doing their best, but we would like to make sure they have things in place where they should be in place.
So yeah, well, I think having the chief, these are all good questions to ask the chief. Yeah.
Right. And not something that we could respond to right in this moment. So we'll need to ask them so that they can gather the information together.
But register your phone.
We have other questions that I want to make sure that we get to.
So Ms. Henderson?
Just a second. Ms. Matthias is first.
Oh, Ms. Matthias first, okay. You need to unmute. We can't hear you.
She's unmuted, but we can't hear you, Ms. Matthias.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Now we can.
My question is around illegal dumping and trash pickup in the region, and I'd just like to know what is happening in El Sobrante around those issues. I tend to see mattresses and couches and all kinds of stuff that's all around the streets, and it would be nice to know what's going on with illegal dumping and trash pickup.
So you are allowed, not allowed, everyone can report illegal dumping to the county. They respond to that, and we'll get out there. They have a weekly list that they collect from all the different locations, and they work in conjunction with RSS, Republic Services, excuse me, to go out and address them as frequently as they can. I can, let me see if I don't want to grab the phone number to give to everybody. I do not have it memorized.
So it's Republic, or is it the sheriff's?
It's illegal dumping. The sheriff does not pick up illegal dumping. It's either Public Works or it is Republic for West.
Maybe during the discussion, you can send it as a message.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the chat, or I'll read it out.
And is there any sort of trash pickup in El Sobrante?
Whoever's speaking, I can't hear you.
That's me. That's Chris.
Okay. Say that one more time.
Trash pickup in, downtown on San Pablo Dam Road. Oftentimes those cans are filled to the brim. There's trash all over the hills. I'm just wondering if there's anything that can be done about that.
I will check on the pickup for the cans on Dam Road. Republic is supposed to be picking that up.
Okay, thank you.
I can check on that.
Okay, Ms. Henderson, Jean Henderson had a question, and then
Thank you.
And Sydney.
To go back to Sohaila's question about wildfires, we've been meeting now Sohaila's gotten a big group of neighbors together, and we've had a lot of people from both the city and the county come and talk to us. What seems apparent, though, is that El Sobrante is different from, or at least zip code 94803 is different from a lot of other areas. So, for instance, the people that live in Carriage Hills live in Richmond, but the only way in and out is Castro Ranch Road, and it's in the county. And what we don't have the opportunity to see is the interaction between those two agencies. Maybe that happens at the at this new emergency council, but if citizens aren't invited to that, they don't have any way of seeing. It's not that anybody doesn't believe you. There just doesn't seem to be visible interaction between the county and the city. We believe they both have our best interests at heart and would come in the case of a fire in a heartbeat. We don't see anything.
Yeah, I can respond. So one, yes, they do. I've been on the Board of Supervisors 22 years, and I can tell you there is a lot of interaction between the City of Richmond Fire Department and Contra Costa County Fire. You're welcome to participate in these Wildcat Canyon meeting. One's coming up in a couple of weeks. Meetings that are basically, the purpose was to do, as you say, to have residents hear directly from the fire agencies, and these are residents specifically along the interface, and there are residents from Richmond, East Richmond Heights, El Sobrante, El Cerrito, and Kensington that participate. If you put your email in the chat, we can make sure you get the notice of that. One of my other staff, Kate Rauch, staffs that, created a Facebook page, and I know there are some folks on this call who I think went for the first time to the last one. And you do hear, but the hard work doesn't go on in a public meeting. That's not how, fire agencies work. They are on together on this call, but they do training together, they share their plans together, they do mutual response together, and they work together on the EOC. And you can hear about some of that in participating in this larger meeting.
John or Tom, I can't raise my hand because I'm a co-host. Tom,
Okay.
can I just make a comment really quickly?
Sure.
John may not be aware that the next meeting of that Wildcat Canyon group, which I'm on now, but I haven't been to a meeting yet because we haven't had any meetings recently. We are having one next week on the 21st.
Yes. I will be
So
at
I
it,
would,
yes.
yeah, and I will be too. And I'm inviting anyone on this call. The thing is general conversation, a general question like where's the evacuation plan is not very helpful in that every single person is going to have a particular way in or out of where they live.
Right.
And that is going to be different depending on what the event is.
That's right.
Now, I really get how terrified everyone is, especially folks that live back up these hills where there's only one road out, and what you may need to have ready to go is you may need to be prepared to hike out. But that's specific to people in very specific neighborhoods. People in other neighborhoods have different issues. So if you have specific things like a fire road gate you don't know how to open, or things like that, if you feed that information in, then we can try to feed that into the system to make sure that they know things that they need to mitigate.
Yeah.
But otherwise, everybody's really got to be sure they know their own plan, that they know how many ways out they have and are prepared to go that way. So when Commander Buford and all his folks put out the word, go this way, you're ready to go. I just wanted to put that out there. And we will have a meeting next week.
It's great information. So for things like Castro Ranch Road has a lot of trees that need to be cut, but it's not East Bay Parks. The city tells us to go to the county tells us to go to the city. So we get a fair amount of this. And is this the place that those things should come?
I will check on that. I will check on the trimming of the trees along Castro Ranch Road.
But that's just an example. So there's a lot
So
of
I would like
neighborhoods.
I would like to make just a suggestion that we table this discussion for now and plan an agenda item on this for our next meeting, because this is important and I think it has to have, you know, a serious look so that everybody's on board. I think there was one more question.
Sydney and then Doreen. Go ahead, Sydney. Unmute yourself.
We're not hearing you.
Now you should be able to hear me now.
Thank you, Sydney.
Now we do.
Okay, I just wanted to add to the question about the streets, San Pablo, and the Dam Road. There is a volunteer group, the Green Team, that cleans up the trash on that strip in the downtown area with irregular regularity, shall I say, when they can get enough people together. And they're always looking for volunteers. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with the trash barrels, because we usually dump our stuff into the trash barrels. But there is, at least they pick up the smaller trash, well, even the bigger trash, right there in those few blocks of the downtown area. So if you want, my dog would like to join us here. If you would like to volunteer, or you know people who would like to do that, you just need to contact Holly. Oh, it's Holly Ann at yahoo.com. It's OLLYANNEO at yahoo.com. And she's a delightful lady, and she'd be glad to have any help.
Thank you, Sydney.
Thank you, Sydney. I believe there was one more question, and we can move to the next.
Doreen, unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think everything that I was going to say has been said, except in addition to needing to focus on specific routes and whether they're overgrown and whether, you know, trees are hanging over them, that sort of thing. We have also been discussing and wondering why we are not having any evacuation practices or drills, such as the ones that have happened in neighboring communities, such as, I believe, Orinda.
I'll be sure to ask. We'll definitely check on that.
Doreen, that's one of my primary questions for next Wednesday, and I will faithfully ask that question.
Okay. Are there other questions for Lieutenant Buford?
Okay.
All
So
right.
if there are no further questions, why don't we move on to Chief Thomas to give the fire district's presentation.
All right, good evening. I'm listening. Those are all very good questions, and we'll try and get the answers to you. I have a lot of information. I'll try and keep it short. This is from Chief Burchard. First, we want to remember our fallen firefighters. We continue our practice of honoring and remembering those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for the communities that they serve. In particular, Matt and Scott. 13 years later, we're still putting into place the new measures so that we do not have that happen again. Out of the 127 original recommendations, we have completed 104 of them so far. Fire season update. This year's fire season continues to prove challenging. We are continuing to experience unseasonably early fire risk ahead of normal height of annual fire season. Dry lightning storms came through, wreaked havoc in mid-August, sparking countless fires across the state. In addition to dispatching numerous strike teams made up of Con Fire and other operational area resources, Alameda, Napa, San Bernardino, Solano counties, we responded to numerous fires, sending crews out, and they did an enormous job. We continue to protect the citizens in the county here by not allowing crews to go off duty the next shift. We mandatorily held everyone, chiefs on down, and we were able to protect the citizens in these counties as well. As we move into the traditionally more wildfire-prone weeks of late September, October, and early November, we expect fire frequency and danger to rise once again. So again, your questions were very pertinent and important. Was that a question? Oh, okay. The Deer Complex response, that was early August 16, the district responded in support to the Deer Complex, which was East Contra Costa, with 13 engines, multiple chief officers, both dozers and hand crews. And again, they were in a 24-hour response, and they were there for days until CAL FIRE crews came in and supplemented. Fleet updates, several heavy equipment fleet additions are in the works. These are long head time accusations with a new ladder truck and 2 Type 1 engines, which is immediate attack on things like structure fires and stuff like that. You guys have mentioned homeless encampments and other hazards that are out there. Our Fire Prevention Bureau update. As we move into the final quarter of the calendar year, our progress on state mandated inspections is strong, with some 98% of the more than 7,000 inspections are already concluded. This includes apartments, multifamily residential occupancies with total number of inspections required. It is at 99.5% completion, and this includes grade schools and all kinds of things like that. Similarly, weed abatement inspections are progressing well into inspections of priority risk areas being completed along the issuance of end-stage work orders on non-compliant properties. Inspectors also evaluate conditions in open space areas adjacent to residential areas in August and September, and they continue to do that. Again, I said it's a lot of information. I'm trying to make sure you get some of the pertinent stuff. The Bureau's work to mitigate fire risk related to homeless encampments continue to progress as we worked with a variety of local partners in August and September to ensure the safety of these residents is not overlooked. We visited numerous encampments offering fire prevention guidance on implementing safety measures, including fire suppression, access, and other risk reduction measures to the various agencies involved with them. And then, of course, you know that we're in COVID-19. We continue to closely monitor both our crews and employee protection measures and issued a single consolidated infection protection policy in August to simplify and clarify what had become a number of governing documents. And it goes on, but just know that we're not only monitoring us so that we can respond when you call 911, but it's continuous and ongoing. I'm sorry about the radio, I'm on duty. And last but not least, Con Air One, which is through the REACH partnership, went online with its new aerial fire suppression mission in August and is doing well. It's already responded to a number of incidents. And then last thing, the budget update. We received the annual assessment letter from the county assessor on August 10th, and it reflected estimates that were in line with our original estimate of a 5% increase for assessed valuation growth within the district. We still plan to work through the current fiscal year in a reduced revenue mindset with regard to expenditures, as was presented to the board during the budget hearing on August 4th. Any questions?
Okay, so first we'll take questions from the board and then questions from the audience. So my question, thank you for your presentation, Chief Thomas. My question is for both you and Supervisor Joya. I'd like to know how the effort is going to identify alternative housing for the homeless, which might decrease the load in terms of homeless encampments and the danger for wildfires. Supervisor Joya, what progress has been made towards moving some of our homeless to spaces in motels and other spaces that have been identified?
So I think folks may know the status, should be aware. As you know, the county fire chief indicated there was a concern with a specific homeless encampment above San Pablo Dam Road. We called a meeting with the city of San Pablo, which owns the property, and it's located in the city of San Pablo. Our fire folks, as well as our homeless division. And a plan of action was put in place. All those individuals, I am told, have now been relocated to other facilities or sites, and that the city was securing that parcel to prevent others from trying to move onto that parcel. And the reason in this case they were moved was because of the concern about fires starting that would then go up the hill. So my understanding, the verification I received from both the health department and the city manager of San Pablo, was that all the individuals have been relocated and the city is securing the site.
Okay, and what are kind of the goals for the El Sobrante homeless population? Do we hope to relocate all of them? As many as will consent?
The ones on that, well, the ones that were on this particular site, the parcel, have all been relocated. I don't know where, but as you know, the county has spent millions of dollars to lease 600 hotel rooms, in which many homeless individuals, vulnerable homeless from certain encampments, and shelter residents have been relocated to those sites. The county is working on a number of new projects for new housing opportunities. A 60-unit project we're working on in San Pablo. County purchased the Motel 6 in Pittsburgh. So the goal is working with those who are homeless to move them into some type of housing. Hotels is one option. But the immediacy of moving those who are on a parcel of land that had fire risk issues, those were relocated.
Thank you. I'd like to open it to other members of the board. Thank you, Supervisor Joya.
Hello.
Go Mickey. Go Mickey.
Hi. I don't know if somebody else is talking or
Go ahead.
turn. Okay.
Hear you fine.
I kind of have a personal question. First of all, I wanted to thank all the firefighters. You know, everybody here, I'm sure, is so grateful for all the work that you're doing and risking your lives for, you know, keeping us safe and all that. But on a personal note, a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was 3 weeks ago already, there was a fire across the creek from us, and I think it was the Creekside Apartments off of San Pablo Dam Road. We could see the flames through the trees from our property. And I was just wondering if there was any information on how that started. And another question would be, my husband was ready to grab our hose and go down our, riparian zone and cross the creek and go up and see if he could help. And I don't know if that's something that the fire department would want us to do, or they wanted us to stay out of the way. I mean, we did hear the sirens coming and all that. So I just want to know from a, layperson's perspective, should we be out there trying to fight it? And also if you have any information on how it started.
No, ma'am, I do not have any information. I was off duty that day. I can get the information for you. The latest I heard was it started on the exterior. I don't know if it was a homeless encampment or not, but it started on the exterior and worked its way in.
Yeah, we thought it might have been a barbecue, somebody setting up a barbecue or something like that, because it's apartments there. We don't see homeless people there.
Right. And then, it's good that you asked that question about should citizens help or not. We always recommend not to, because you're not wearing protective equipment, not trained, stuff like that. But just yesterday, we had an apartment fire similar to the one you're speaking of yesterday. And it could have been a lot worse, but a citizen actually grabbed the apartment hose line and actually opened it up and knocked some of the punch out of the fire, which stopped, slowed it down a little bit until we got there. We thanked him, but we don't recommend it. But again, similar situation. This one apparently started on the gentleman's balcony. He had a number of stored items like you would in a garage, paint cans, tires, other solvents, and a pot with a number of cigarette butts. So somewhere with fumes or cigarette butts, something started something in it. He heard an explosion. Next thing you know, he had smoke filling up in his apartment, then flames, and then the flames start lapping to the third floor apartment. So happy to report that no injuries were reported and everyone got out safe, but a citizen did help with that situation.
Okay.
I would love to get more information on that if possible. I don't know how to do that.
On the Creekside apartment?
Yeah.
Creekside apartment fire? I'll follow up with Chief Thomas offline.
All right, thank you.
There are other questions from the council members? Okay, so up first is Sohaila, and then I see you down there from the El Sobrante Car and Garage. I see you, and then Erica's iPad. Okay, go ahead, Sohaila.
Thank you, Supervisor Joya, for taking care of that homeless encampment issue, which was a serious fire threat to the community everywhere. And thank you, Fire Chief, for your presentation. I wait for the next session that's scheduled to talk about a case of a wildfire and evacuation routes and everything. I just have two quick questions for you. In a worst case scenario, when there is wind, at what speed would fire be moving? That's my question one.
I think you answered it. It depends on the wind speed itself. It's traveling just like you would with a car. It's clocked at miles per hour, but it's the fuel that it's burning that makes the biggest difference. If it's a small or short grassy area, which is considered light, flashy fuels, and you have a 20-mile-an-hour wind, it's going to travel very quickly. But if it's thick trees and brush and things like that, it's going to go a little slower because it's burning that, and then depends on how much moisture is in the fuel. It's a bunch of different factors. But so again, we always stress, if you're living in those types of communities, create your defensible space, minimum of 30 feet, get off flammable items away from your structure, things like that. And then I know that you have the question about why don't we have a plan for roads and stuff like that, escape routes? We do, but like the chief said, if we say this is the exact way to go and the incident changes, then we just sent you to the wrong way. So we do have plans in place for possible scenarios, but we have to treat each incident as a brand new incident, because what worked last week on this incident may not work on this one. So the shortest example I can give is your house, your apartment, your place of residence. You're going to make a escape plan for your residence. You're going to say, as a scenario, if a fire is in the kitchen, we're going to escape through the living room or the back door or the garage door. But if a fire is in the living room, then you have to go a different route. You're going to go through the kitchen, again, through the garage or whatever. If it's on the second floor of your structure, you're going to have a totally different plan. So that's kind of how you have to look at it when we're looking at wildland urban interface incidents. It's so dynamic. There's so many moving parts, but you have teams in place who are experts at this. They're looking at this all the time, and we're having scenarios with backup scenarios, with backup scenarios, with backup scenarios, so that we can't cover everything, but we're trying to cover everything. And as far as your issue with the PG&E cutting power, you know, we have generators to the generators so that that does not affect your 911 system. And I hope that helps.
It affects our cell phone systems. I appreciate it and your explanation. Actually, we do need to know the exact routes. We only want to make sure you're prepared and you have all those different scenarios. So next session allocated to this, if you could bring some of them so we know your way of thinking, that gives us peace of mind. We would very much appreciate it. My second question is, there was a fire recently due to explosion of a PG&E transformer.
Yes.
And junipers underneath it, and a car caught fire. So whose responsibility is it to inspect PG&E material itself, hardware, whatever, with respect to highly flammable vegetation and whether there needs to be fuel reduction in those areas? Is it
Thank you for that question, Sohelia.
Is someone else going to answer that? Or is that for me? Is that the one on?
The question who was
that the one on Olinda Drive?
No, she's the one who reported the fire. Go ahead.
Okay, was that the one on Olinda Drive?
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
That's
okay.
the one
That was my
Sohelia
fire.
referring to.
Okay.
Thank her for asking. Go ahead.
Yes. PG&E is responsible for their wires, for their lines, for their transformers. And I believe they're putting a plan in place to start looking for areas where trees have grown into their wires and maybe are compromising the integrity of their system. But that's PG&E's transformer. I'm not blaming PG&E. I'm not pointing any fingers, but she heard an explosion. All aspects look toward the transformer. And when I got there, the transformer was blown, the wires were on fire, and then yes, the junipers went, then the vehicle went, and you know, but the crews did a good job and saved both houses for the most part. Yes.
So my question is, if we see PG&E wires running through flammable vegetation, who's in charge of notifying PG&E to ask him to trim those trees or whatever? Is it our responsibility, or if fire department actively inspects areas?
I think someone else may have a better answer for that. I think if you see the hazard, you can report it.
Yes.
So Sohelia, I'd like to recommend that
hold on, everybody. Hold on. We can't all talk at the same time.
So
I think you muted.
I didn't press anything.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom. We can't hear you.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sohelia, I'd like to recommend that if you have further questions, you frame them in an email to James, and we can see that those, you know, get directly addressed by the people responsible, because we do have other audience members who have questions, and we have a number of more items to move forward with. And that's not saying that your questions aren't important and valuable, but we do need to move forward with the discussion.
Mike's car, El Sobrante Town Garage.
Hey, greetings all. I had a question for John. You there, John?
I'm here. Yes.
Okay. I've noticed we have a new homeless encampment on the eastbound I-80 on-ramp at El Portal. Up on the side there, the trash is growing immensely there. And I see them parking cars there and going up the hill into the cemetery area. So that looks like it's becoming an issue there. So I don't know, because it's Caltrans, I don't know who's going to be in charge of that one.
Caltrans is responsible only on those situations. And this has come up on a number of freeway exits and entrances around on I-80, including in Berkeley. Caltrans is not relocating anyone currently out of there because they have no place to take them. And under a court case, if you have no place to take people, you cannot relocate them. So right now, and I know it's an issue the city of Berkeley is dealing with this. So I know I can tell you that our county homeless division has a outreach team that goes to all of those encampments to work with individuals to try to relocate them or move them voluntarily into some type of opportunity. Right now, I don't think the shelters have reopened because they're all in hotel rooms because of the pandemic. So in the short term, I don't see them moving.
Okay, well, like I said, I wanted to make sure that
Sure.
people were aware.
I will pass it along to them, and I'm sure they're aware of these encampments, but I'll pass it along.
Definitely will.
And the other question I had is, do we have our CHP representative online tonight?
He's not.
Okay, all right. Well, that would be just directed to them. So then I'll leave that one alone and go ahead and let you move on.
Shoot me an email with it or call me tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Erica.
Unmute. There we go. Hi. So I'm Erica Backus, and I live over on Olinda Road over in the Sherwood Forest neighborhood. And like Sohelia and Doreen and Jean, my main concern is wildfire preparedness in our area. There's been 2 house fires on Olinda in the past month. And I want to thank Richmond Fire for their amazing prompt response. And I want to thank Charles Thomas for being here to speak to us. I know that Sohelia and the groups that she's involved with are working on a petition to pressure PG&E to bury the lines that go along Olinda and stretch into Kennedy Grove. And just as a resident, this is my first meeting ever being here, I've had difficulty hunting down any information for myself and my neighbors, not only about how we can prepare home, how we can maybe assist in removing brush or any sort of things that we as residents can do to reduce the wildfire burden. My understanding is that we as homeowners, we have a major role in preventing wildfires, and I've spoken to Kathy Woof over in Richmond Fire Prevention, and she's come over and walked my property, and I'm going to try and make it available for my neighbors for her to do the same. But this is the first time I've ever heard of SOC alerts, first of all, and I am concerned about these evacuation routes as well as the fuel load in not only our neighborhood, which in Sherwood Forest, there's no way to create 30 feet of defensible space. It's an old development and our houses are very close together. So I'm wondering how is this information disseminated to the public? It seems like we're dealing with PG&E, we're dealing with county, we're dealing with Richmond, and no one is speaking to each other. And if they were to ever get together and figure something out, it seems that there's no way to disseminate this to myself and my neighbors about creating a plan. 2020 is the worst fire season in California history, and I don't see a concerted response from the county or from the city on helping neighbors prepare ourselves for, in our suburban settings, in our wildland interface settings, about how to stop what happened in Santa Rosa happening here in Contra Costa County. I mean, right now we're in a red alert, and this has been going on for months. What can me and my neighbors do to assist the county and the city in communicating with PG&E about the problems? What can I do with my neighbors to actually contact people in the city to help figure out how we can make better defensible space when our property doesn't seem to adhere to those guidelines? And how can we reduce the fuel loads in Kennedy Grove, in Wildcat Canyon, and kind of protect our area going forward? It seems like this is the greatest, you know, problem facing our area right now, and it's happening right now, and it'll happen again next year and the year after that. And so, how do we fix these sorts of problems? And how can I go door to door with my neighbors? How can I, what does the city need me and my neighbors to do to reduce the risk?
Oh, let me just say, I think couple good questions. There is a lot of amazing, great resources out there. And I think the issue is always the need for continual communication of getting it out. There's through neighborhood associations, MACs, and so we can have the fire chief address that. There's pamphlets, there's websites that the fire agencies have that have everything you're asking for, like how to do defensible space, what you should do to prepare yourself. So it's pushing that information out, even if it's getting everybody a link to a web page. I can tell you there's actually even organizations that have members. You're welcome to participate in the Wildcat Canyon meeting, where we've actually had the fire chief from the East Bay Regional Park District come. We've had much discussion about the whole issue you mentioned about fire loads. The Park District did environmental impact report several years ago in order to come up with a vegetation management plan. It had a lot of public input over the years. It's been several years, and they are in the process of implementing that vegetation management plan, but with limited funding and resources, it's not happening as quick as many would like. The plan does not necessarily identify removing as much as maybe many in the public would like removed. There's a lot of issues that came up in that EIR that the Park District did. They can talk about it at their meeting. The fire chiefs, I know, are working with the East Bay Regional Park District. So it's probably good to hear from the Park District directly. All I can tell you, there's been lots of sort of discussion with them and public discussion about it.
I appreciate your comment, John. It seems like that now what we're dealing with is the county, the city of Richmond, PG&E, and the Parks District, yeah, all at once, and that there needs to be a consolidated response for our area.
I think there's more of that than you think. And if you participate in one of those meetings, I don't think there's always the best communication to all 1 million residents in Contra Costa about what it is. So I think we need to figure out how to, I mean, if you're looking for wildfire prevention around your home, we should talk about putting together what the website is that everybody could go to.
I'm not concerned about my own personal research. What I'm more concerned about is if there are several agencies that are all actors in this situation, then to whom does the burden fall when it comes to actually informing?
We ought to have the fire chief. This presentation should be with the fire chief when we can get their team at the next meeting prepared to address all of these issues, because now all we're doing is like we're going to respond to some of them and take notes and have the experts come. I think as the chair said, we should have all of this at the presentation with all the right people. And frankly, let me just say, if you participate in the Wildcat and you're welcome Canyon, I don't want to ask 4 fire chiefs to come every month to a MAC meeting, because there's a plenty of MACs around the county and they'd never do anything else. That's why we have a Wildcat Canyon meeting. We had the fire chief of East Bay Regional Park at one meeting. And at one meeting, we had the fire chief of the Park District, the fire chief of Kensington El Cerrito Fire, the fire chief of Richmond, the fire chief of Contra Costa. That doesn't happen often. At the last meeting, all of them were there except East Bay Regional Park. So rather than repeat this conversation in dozens of community meetings, we're trying to get people to go by Zoom to the meeting when they are all there, and you get to hear directly from the chiefs who run the 4 major agencies. And by the way, PG&E was at that meeting and as well. So I think that's a good place. We set this up at the request of residents from Kensington to El Sobrante. There's been more residents now from El Sobrante getting involved, which is great. But I think I just want to use time efficiently, and you can hear directly from them at that meeting.
And I would, can I interject something just very quickly?
Everybody hold on. So Erica, just one thing, please, anyone with questions, suggestions, comments, questions, concerns, email them to me for that particular presentation for what we're talking about.
Yeah, that would be good. And all these questions can get answered.
I'll be the clearinghouse. Send all of that to me so it's all in one place so that we can make sure we get all the questions sent over to our fire agencies. I along with Tom, want to continue. We still have quite a bit left on our agenda this evening, but Erica, your concerns are definitely felt with this, but please send all of that to me so I can have all of that and make sure that I can present that to all of them. Tom, we have one more person with a question, and then we need to move on to our
yeah, I just wanted to make a quick point. So again, this discussion that we'll have at the next MAC meeting, this is your discussion. So please send any questions you have to James so that those get addressed in the presentations. It really helps for the presenters to know kind of what their audience wants. So one more question, and then we really need to move on to the next items.
Christine, you have the last question for Chief Thomas. Matthias.
No, I'll hold it. Thank you. We can move on.
Copy that. Sydney, you something for the chief?
Sydney, we can't hear you.
Sydney, we can't hear you.
You're still muted.
I'm coming. There we go. 2 quick questions. Can somebody give us information on the Wildcat Canyon meetings?
So if you email me your contact information, my coworker Kate, who organizes that, will make sure you receive the agenda so that you know when all of the meetings are.
I just put it in the chat too. So the information is there. It's next Wednesday, the 21st at 3 p.m. via Zoom. You can email James, or I put Kate's email in there too.
Yep.
Get the agenda.
Do email me. Okay.
And
I also put Kate's, yeah, you did good. I put Kate's email in the chat. You can email her directly and say, I want to get on.
Okay. Sydney, please ask your next question, please.
yeah, very quickly. Is there somebody who we can get to come out to our house and tell us what specifically we should do?
Chief Thomas?
Specifically to your house, I'm not sure on that.
I actually know that one. You can email Richmond Fire Prevention, and you can add attention to Kathy Wolf, and she will come out and walk your property and tell you how to do fire prevention.
Thank you very much.
And her address is in Richmond?
With Confire? She's with
Yeah, let me, I'll copy and paste it into the chat. Just give me a second.
And just make sure her address is in Richmond.
She's with Contra Costa Fire.
Oh, I thought it was Richmond. You're right. It's probably Contra Costa Fire. Let me double check that, and I'll put
Come
it
to the
in.
MAC before. Yeah. Chief Thomas, anything else before we move along, sir?
No, thank you all. Thank you very much. I hope I was able to answer some questions, and we'll get back to you on more information. But please check the websites that we posted on the chat.
Yeah. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
No, thank you, sir.
So I think we can move on to, thank you again, Chief, and we can move on to the next item. It's a presentation by Margot McMahon on the smoke-free multi-unit housing issue.
Yes. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm here. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting. I'm excited to share a little bit of information on smoke-free multi-unit housing. My name is Margot McMahon. The name that I'm called is Yete, and I'm one of the senior health education specialists with the Tobacco Prevention Program. And one of my colleagues is also on the call, and I will present, but she may chime in. She may also help me at the end to answer a couple quick questions. So we just wanted to share a little bit of the resources. And right now with COVID, there's a lot of people not in compliance. People are stressed and they're smoking more. So we're really trying to reach out to the landlords, the property managers, and the tenants, and provide mailings, and also keep our website updated so people can get information there. So what is currently in place to protect communities? So this is people that are impacted by other people. You know, probably most of you know it, what this is related to, but basically, sorry for the dogs outside. So what is currently taking place to protect our community? So 100% of smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance. So this is an ordinance that applies to the unincorporated county. And it covers not only traditional cigarette smoke, but also vaping, marijuana. So that's why it says smoke is smoke. So we're not only referring to cigarette smoke, traditional cigarette smoke. And so smoke-free is for individual units, including balconies, indoor common areas, outdoor common areas, including, for example, patios, and designated smoke areas that are at least 25 feet from any windows, doorways, or entrances. So we wanted to come and just provide some information for the residents of El Sobrante and for the whole county, ideally. And we have a call line, so if anyone is suffering from secondhand smoke by a neighbor, we have a number they can call. They can also email our team at the Tobacco Prevention Program. We work for the Contra Costa County Health Services, and we are a program within that. They can also go to our website and submit an online form, and this information comes to us, and we're able to reach out to the landlords and property owners. So how can residents report secondhand smoke violations? So again, the complaint line, this could be anonymous. So if somebody wants to reveal their identity, that's fine. However, going the wrong direction here. So anyway, so they could be anonymous or not, and the police will not be involved. And as I mentioned, our program staff can reach out directly to the landlords and the property management. So how can residents report secondhand smoke? So it's really important that our residents know that they should be documenting, tracking dates, times, number of violations, any communication with the landlord or other residents. And also if they can take any photos or any thing that they can kind of compile, that would kind of make their case and show what the problem is and how frequently it's occurring. And what is the responsibility of the landlord? So the landlords, they must be in compliance, and that includes having smoke-free areas in their lease and posting non-smoking, no smoking signs around their property. And we actually have those signs. There's a specific number we can provide if anybody needs those. and just being responsive to the resident complaints, and trying to mitigate and resolve the issues. Okay, so what is the responsibility of the residents? Again, you know, documentation, not smoking in the smoke-free areas, going to designated areas or off the property, and submitting a complaint if the issue is not resolved. So just following up on any complaints they may have. So our role as county workers is to understand the mental and physical toll living near a smoker can have, and sharing that information. We actually have a fact sheet that is in its final approval stage. We're happy to share that we have been giving to our different program staff, like I presented to Black Infant Health and WIC, and anyone that's working directly with clients. We're asking them, you know, to provide this information and this fact sheet. Our work is linked, so all of us, you know, we're all working together, and we overlap so much in our work and our efforts. So just making sure we're all on the same page, you know, like it just linked to the previous presentation to a degree with the cigarette butts that might have had something to do with the fire. So we're all connected, and empowering our communities to submit complaints and ensure that they feel 100% comfortable and safe in doing so. We're here to support them, and just guaranteeing that all the options and resources are made available to our communities, and providing accurate information. So that is kind of in summary the presentation, and we just wanted to open it up if anyone had questions. And then if everyone doesn't mind, there's a quick survey at the end that just helps us be most efficient and ensure that the information we're sharing with you is helpful, and also see if there's anything else that would have been helpful for you. So just want to open it if anybody has any questions for myself, and Myra Lopez is also here. So we're willing to answer any questions we can.
Any questions? Thank you so much for joining us and for your lovely presentation. And are there any questions from members of the board?
Margot, can you turn this screen sharing off?
Oh, I'm absolutely sorry. I'm a little new to this, so
that's okay.
I just need to move.
Yeah, I'd like to know what rights do medical marijuana patients have to use their medicine. There are a lot of people who can't just use an edible, that they need immediate relief from either smoking or vaping it. And it seems wrong to me that they should be deprived of that, being able to use medical marijuana as their preferred medicine or their best medicine. So what are they supposed to do if they're disabled, they can't get out? If they're a cancer patient, they need it immediately for the nausea and things like that. So I'm curious how are there any accommodations for medical marijuana patients?
Yeah, Myra, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, I can take that question.
Yeah.
So, you know, you bring up a great point. We did have that question come up in several meetings, not just for unincorporated, but also in San Pablo and Richmond when they were adopting similar ordinances. However, smoke is smoke, and that's how it's defined in the ordinance. So no accommodations can be made for smoking marijuana for whatever reason, including medical purposes. So it's important that the people that are using cannabis for medicinal purposes talk to their providers about alternative forms, or look at places outside the property that's outside of 25 feet of major walkways, doorways, and entrances where they can smoke safely at a distance. There are people that have issues with transportation, such as those that are wheel-bound. They will, however, have to find ways to move around. That's sometimes using like a buddy system and finding another person on the property that smokes and having them smoke around the same time and accommodating them having their landlord accommodate them by placing them on the first floor so it's easier for them to access the sidewalk or the street. So I hope that helps answer that question. Unfortunately, no accommodations can be made for smoking.
So this is a county ordinance. Is this something that we could try to amend at the county level if there are people who feel that their rights are being impacted by this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something you can talk to your supervisor about. You can bring forth in a public comment and look to amend the ordinance. However, there is strong support for it to be comprehensive and inclusive of smoking because it still does bother other residents that do not smoke, and they also have a right to clean air in their own home.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say something because I obviously was one of the advocates for this ordinance. Generally, the smoke-free. We voted for this unanimously at the Board of Supervisors. Many cities have followed our lead and adopted similar ordinances. So, Mickey, on the issue of medical marijuana, we did have some discussion. And the idea is it's all a balance, right? There are many people who potentially use medical marijuana. So what are the alternative ways to utilize it to smoking? The idea is whether you're using it for medical purposes or using it for recreational purpose or just casually, non-medical purposes, it has the same impact on a neighbor. And so, and then how do you get into policing that and enforcing that? If a neighbor complains, there's also HIPAA privacy issues. So if a neighbor complains, they have to then disclose that they're taking it for medical purposes as opposed to non-medical purposes. It would just be a nightmare to try to enforce that. So I do not see, I appreciate what you're saying. You raise a good point. I don't see the Board of Supervisors changing on this issue because there was some discussion of this, and I think there was just general unanimity on smoke-free multifamily housing.
Thank you.
You can always write a letter, if you're asking what my position is as one of 5 that votes, I support the ordinance in its current form, and I respect the issue you raised, but I think it does mean that someone would look for an alternative way to get the benefits of medical marijuana rather than smoking it.
Yeah, the problem is, I don't want to get too long into this, but obviously the alternative forms like edibles and things like that are not as immediate, and that can be a problem with the medical issue.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other? Thank you, Mickey, for your input. Are there any other questions from the board? If not, we can open to the audience. Are there any questions from the audience?
None that I see.
Okay, so thank you very much, Yete. A great presentation, and thanks for your hard work. And so we'll go to Jacqueline Vera from the Alcohol Coalition.
Tom, real quick.
Oh, sorry.
Margot, you mentioned wanting folks to fill out an evaluation. How do folks do that via Zoom?
Can I just share my screen and I can bring it up real quick? Thank you.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Can I
about it myself.
Ask you instead to put it in the chat? It's really, really difficult for people to copy off your screen because they can't get to when you're screen sharing, we can't use our computers. So can you just paste it in the chat, the link?
Yeah, I will. Yes, I believe I can. So
Okay,
it might just take a minute. I might have to go into my email. But
that's okay. As long as you get it in there shortly, then we can all fill it out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margot.
Okay, great. So thanks again. And we can move to our next item, which is a presentation by Jacqueline Vera from the Alcohol Coalition.
Good evening, Jackie. Are you there? Jackie, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Jackie, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Okay. Maybe send.
Okay, just a moment. She wrote in the chat she's trying to fix her mic.
So I've been on Zoom meetings for probably, what, 8 months, and they're still hell.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Jackie.
I decided to use my phone instead since I'm using my husband's computer and I don't know how to use his mic. So, ooh, this went.
We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Jacqueline and I'm the alcohol policy and marijuana policy coordinator for West County. So I help run a coalition and we cover all of West County. I just wanted to share with you guys more information on the coalition. So our mission is to reduce youth alcohol and marijuana use in West County, and also provide education, change policies, and advocate for the community. And our vision is just to create a healthy, safer environment for the youth, and to educate the youth on prevention, and to help change policies, and overall engage and empower the community. So these are the current projects of the coalition. We're working on passing a social host ordinance in Richmond, and I can explain to you guys what a social host ordinance is later on in the coalition meetings. But it's just just to hold people more accountable if they provide alcohol to minors. And our current project, we're working on a marijuana billboard assessment in Richmond, just to make sure that marijuana
Jackie,
billboard.
do you want to share your presentation now that we can hear you on the mic?
I thought I was sharing. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. It's because I stopped sharing. But yeah, so here's our mission statements. We just want to educate the community on the harms of using alcohol and marijuana. And then here's a list of our current projects. We're working on passing a social host ordinance in Richmond, and I joined the coalition 2 years ago. So the person before me was working on passing a single sale policy in Richmond, just so that liquor stores can't sell loose cans of liquor. And so we're currently working on a marijuana billboard assessment, just to make sure that there aren't marijuana billboards near schools and areas where youth might be located at. And also we do environmental assessments of new alcohol outlets and marijuana dispensaries and cultivation sites in West County. And we also provide prevention materials for the community. We do a lot of outreach, and we work with schools. And I would like to invite everybody to the next coalition meeting. It's next Wednesday at 4 p.m. via Zoom. You guys can send me an email, and I can send you guys a Zoom link. And I'll be discussing more about the marijuana billboard assessment in Richmond. And also here's some links to our social media if you would like to learn more or get more educational information. If anyone has any questions, you guys can email me or ask them now.
Jackie, can you drop your email into the chat?
Yes.
Are there questions for Jackie? don't see any. Jackie's contact information is in the chat for anyone that would like to reach out to her.
All right.
I think we're moving on then.
Okay, thank you so much, Jackie. We really appreciate your presentation, and people can reach out to you by email. So I guess the next items are any development plan applications and variance reports, building modification requests, etc. It doesn't look like we have any of those. Is that correct, James?
LP20.
LP20.
Dash 2016.
Oh, well, so, okay, so that's a very, okay, yes, I'm sorry. We're talking about the artist tree.
Correct.
Okay, I got that as a separate item for some reason. Sorry about that, yes. So that's an important issue. And I was wondering if perhaps Supervisor Joya could just give us a quick summary of the project, and then we can begin our
I'll give a
discussion.
summary of the process. I'll let the applicant talk about their project. So several years ago, the Board of Supervisors worked through a long process to develop an ordinance for permitting of marijuana dispensaries and cultivation sites in the unincorporated areas of the county. Many cities have similar, including Richmond, ordinances. And we passed it after the statewide passage of the proposition, which made the dispensaries outside the medical context legal in California. We did a lot of outreach, and the board settled on a program that was sort of a two-part process. The first part was a request for proposals, RFP process, with very specific standards that went out and to identify those who were interested in either opening a dispensary or a cultivation site. And the reason we took that approach, many cities have not done that, is we just didn't want anybody coming and applying. We wanted to be able to go through and look at proposals and get the best operators, those who have experience, those who are reputable, would run the best operation. So we didn't want it to be purely based on land use. We wanted it to be qualification based and land use based. So, and that was also after the county had done some zoning that limited where dispensaries would be located. For example, we had distance requirements and buffers from schools, and basically more allowed them in certain commercial districts. So after this RFP process, there were 10 that were ranked. There were, and the highest ranked, I think the artistry countywide was ranked as the second one. And so it was the second one in terms of the overall ranking countywide. The first one was one out in Pacheco. And so they had submitted for a site in El Sobrante, which means that they now have to go through a land use process for this, which is what they're doing, where they need a land use permit to be able to get approval. It is going to the Planning Commission later this month. And today is your chance to hear, ask questions, provide any input or thoughts before it goes to the Planning Commission. So that's sort of my brief summary.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so this is, so the presenters for the artistry can now talk about their project.
Hi, my name's Avi. I was in front of you guys back before COVID. It was 8 months ago. It's very nice to see some familiar faces, even if we can't be together in person. First, I'd like to thank James, Supervisor Joya, and the MAC for allowing us to present in front of you today. We figured we would share a presentation with you, myself and Lauren, and afterwards take any Q&As that you guys might have. So Lauren, if you want to share the presentation.
Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. So I did get to meet some of you in person several months ago. So it's nice to be here again. Thank you, like Avi said, for giving us this opportunity. I'll just give an overview of our business. I know some of you have heard a little about it already, but then we're here to answer any questions you have and to help work with the county to make this, you know, something that can really seamlessly blend into your community. So a little about the artistry. We created the brand to highlight the synergy between the arts and cannabis. Cannabis has always been a source of inspiration for artists and a way that people enjoy the arts. So we really wanted to highlight that tie-in and provide a place where people could shop for cannabis, but also get a connection to the local arts community. So our store will partner with artists in the area to showcase some of their works in the store. We'll have rotating exhibits that switch out every couple months, and all of the proceeds of the sales of the artwork go directly to the artists. So we don't take any kind of commission or fee for that. Our goal is just to reflect the local art in the community and to support those artists. Our other goals are to provide a very communal and welcoming shopping experience. We've been in this industry for a long time. We've operated dispensaries in the Southern California area for about 13 years. So we're really familiar with all the regulations, with cannabis, and with connecting to local communities. So our goal is to have a place that anyone could feel welcome, a place where you can get educated about cannabis, where you have safe access to legal, tested cannabis products, and also to raise awareness of the health benefits of cannabis. This is our main operating team. So like I said, we have many, many years combined of experience operating cannabis dispensaries. And we do have several other locations in Southern California. Some of them are open now, some of them will be opening in the next 6 to 12 months. We will have a very wide selection of products. We try to cater to all different types of consumers. We have a lot of products that are non-combustible because we know that some people really prefer to consume cannabis in that way. We have a lot of CBD products, wellness products, and we always take suggestions from our customers. So we're constantly adapting our selection so that we can best serve your community. We also focus heavily on customer education. So primarily that comes from our bud tenders directly, who are very well trained in all aspects of cannabis. We also have learning centers in our stores. So we have different kiosks and wall-mounted devices where you can actually get a consultation. You can find out product information. You can find out about different consumption methods. And we also will have on-site seminars on different cannabis-related topics. We're committed to hiring from the local community. We have a very inclusive, diverse culture. We like to have all different types of people in our store and to really reflect our surroundings. We strive to create careers for our employees, not just a job. So we really focus on continuing education and opportunities for advancement within our company. We know that you might have a concern about cannabis businesses in your neighborhood and how it could possibly impact the safety of the surroundings. We take safety extremely seriously. We're parents, our other partners also have young children, and we know that it's really important to enhance the overall safety of not just our premises and within our premises, but the surrounding neighborhood. So the number one way that we do that is to have licensed security personnel on site 24 hours a day. So whether we're open or closed, we'll have video camera surveillance that covers every inch of our property inside, and on the exterior, we'll be having alarm systems, inventory control procedures, extensive employee training. So all of those things are designed to really improve the security of what's there currently. So, if you are familiar with that location right now, there's really not a lot of security monitoring the area, after hours, or the sidewalks around the premises, the parking lot. All of those things, when we're there, we will be constantly monitoring to prevent any potential unwanted activity. Neighborhood compatibility is also something we take really seriously, because we do want you to feel like we're a natural extension of your neighborhood, not like some foreign business coming in that doesn't fit in. So we do a lot upon opening, when we're pre-opening, to get integrated and to get to know our neighbors. We go door to door to businesses in the neighborhood. We offer discounts, permanent discounts to employees of all local businesses. We look forward to working with the MAC on an ongoing basis, to working with local nonprofit groups, and to have an open door policy where we always welcome any input. Another way that we're committed to integrating into your neighborhood is through our building design. So I think there'll be some images of that in the next couple slides, but basically by having a very simple building design, which doesn't stick out, doesn't have anything that is recognizable as being a dispensary or cannabis store, no green crosses, no weed leaves, our name and our signage, don't convey cannabis in any way. So if you were driving by or even walking by, you wouldn't know what we were. So, for youth access, for instance, I know people are concerned about that, and I would be too. And so we try to really stay under the radar in that way and have just a very simple, inviting facade, but something that will blend into the surroundings. So some of these things I touched on already, but we're committed to being a responsible neighbor. So with our security and monitoring, we will have open houses. We will have a nice, easily accessible parking lot. We won't allow any queuing of customers outside of the building. We'll be monitoring the outside sidewalks and the parking areas to make sure that nobody's loitering there, that nobody's trying to consume in those areas. So just to make sure that, there's no possibility of us being a nuisance to the area. Another thing that people may be concerned about is odor. And so, cannabis does have an odor, and we're aware of that, and we do a lot of things to completely minimize that and to prevent it from escaping our facility. So part of that is having commercial grade air filtration units within our facility, and we will have multiple of those units in different areas to really control the smell, even if you're inside our premises, but especially to prevent any smells from escaping outside the building. We also have our products stored in a secured area within the site, so we don't have any bulk flower. All items are individually packaged in small amounts, so that also greatly minimizes any odors. Our location. So this is a rendering of our design for the exterior of the store. As you can see, we'll be upgrading the current facade. I'll just go to this next one. So here's a picture of the current building, and then our design beneath. So we'll be taking the current building, but adding windows in the front, resurfacing the exterior, repainting it, putting in some new landscaping, upgrading the signage, you know, trying to make a modern looking building, but like I said, being tasteful with it and with the design and having something that will ultimately enhance the commercial landscape within El Sobrante. That's our goal. And so we will have 14 private dedicated parking spaces that will be for customers. There is also parking on San Pablo Dam Road. So we don't foresee any people having to drive up La Colina to access the facility or creating any increased traffic there. Okay, and that's on here. So this is actually a photo of the current site. We will be reconfiguring the parking. So those spots on La Colina will not be parking spots that will be available to customers. This is our site plan. I put it here in case anyone wanted to look at it in detail later. It's just, you know, an overview of the site. Another big part of our business model is community benefits. So we're involved in a lot of different nonprofits, personally and as a company, and we are committed to doing the same thing in our location in El Sobrante. So in our LUP proposal right now, we are committing to $865,000 in community benefit fees to the county over the first 7 years that will be open. This is based on 2% of gross receipts. And then thereafter, we will continue on an ongoing basis to give 2% of gross receipts to the county. We'll also be volunteering at local nonprofits, hosting donation drives. And these are real things that we do right now. We hosted a toy drive in our store. We just did a Shop to Stop Hunger where we donated 6,500 meals based on a percentage of sales from our store for a month. We sponsor different charities and events. The artwork is its own community benefit as well because we'll be supporting local artists. And then we also provide discounts to patrons of other local businesses. So we want to encourage people to support other businesses in El Sobrante. And so we give discounts if you can show proof of purchase from another business or performance venue, arts venue, or museum. And the other thing is that Contra Costa County does have a cannabis tax of 4%. So in addition to this community benefits fee, we're estimating that we will generate $1.16 million in tax revenue to the county by the year 5 of operations. These are a few of the organizations that we've already identified as wanting to work with because they're in line with some of our charitable passions right now. One is reducing food insecurity. So the Food Bank of Contra Costa, the Arts and Cultural Commission, because of course we're very in support of anything that will enhance the arts and support artists. The Community Arts Foundation, likewise, San Pablo Senior Center, Planting Justice. But we're really open to working with you, working with the county, you know, listening to any suggestions you have of ways that you think that we can help. And Jacqueline, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to hear your presentation too. We are, you know, very interested in working with the coalition because we do take youth prevention really seriously. We have developed some educational materials on youth prevention of cannabis use and the reasons why it can be harmful to people that are underage, education surrounding that. So, you know, we do also really want to work on that. And it is important to us that no youth can ever access our facility and that our facility is not attractive to minors and that we don't have any advertising that's attractive to minors. So that's our presentation. I put our contact info here. I can put it in the comments too if you'd like. But please feel free to reach out to us directly after this if you have any other questions.
Okay. So Avi and Lauren, thank you so much for your presentation. Just a quick question to James. So our charge here is to collect input from the board and to collect input from the community and then to work to craft a message to Jennifer Cruz that would convey, you know, any issues that we have. Is that correct, James?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So let me just add two things. Obviously, it's to provide notice to the community, so the community knows this is going to the Planning Commission, and any members from the community can write letters to the Planning Department in advance of the meeting to express any issues, pro or con. It's a chance for the MAC to ask any clarifying questions as well. And then if you so chose to, you know, you could write a letter to the county expressing any sentiments you have.
Okay. So there would be essentially a communication from the MAC with the MAC's input plus whatever input it's conveying from the community, plus people in the community have their own chance to weigh in.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that we have the, you know, not everybody is here at this meeting. So I just want to make sure that even those who aren't here at the meeting can get a chance to weigh in on this. I don't know how
I mean,
you
the question though, because of the Brown Act, you can't like solicit their comment. Okay. I mean, they could write individually, but you sort of have to, it's sort of the members who are there today who discuss it, because if it's a letter coming from the MAC, it has to be based on your discussion. But individual MAC members who may not be there tonight can always write a letter themselves.
Right. Okay. So I'd like to just start in terms of comments from the MAC. So my first question would be, if I look at, there's a certain amount of angst from the neighbors on La Colina, and they're concerned about parking and traffic issues primarily. So my question is, just a clarification, what about those parking spaces that are now on La Colina? I didn't quite understand. Are you planning to only use that for staff parking, or is that also customer parking?
Yeah, so I'll take this one, Lauren. That came up when we were working with Jennifer Cruz, and what we decided was that we would not have any customer parking whatsoever on La Colina, and we would only do that for.
So the residents from, you know, on La Colina that I've spoken with are concerned about people, you know, parking on the street there. It's a very narrow street, as you know. And could there be some measure to, let's say, have permitted parking in the sense that La Colina parking for residents that would prevent customers of artistry from parking on La Colina? Because that's a major sticking point for the neighbors there.
Yeah, so the permitted parking.
This is sort of
more
directed at John as well.
Yeah.
Tom, are you suggesting that they have signs that say staff parking over the parking spaces?
Well, so I would want it clarified that customers of artistry are either not allowed or discouraged from parking on La Colina.
And Tom, you
can narrowness
one of the points that could be one of the points you include in your letter, and it could be one of the you know, making sure that's clear in the land use condition. I thought isn't that what the site plan shows?
Yeah, so Tom, just to clarify what is our actual position is, there is no customer parking on La Colina. We will have signs saying no customer parking.
Okay.
And we will visualize the cameras to make sure that there is not customers parking on La Colina.
Great, thank you for clarifying. The printout I have is a little bit faint, and so there may have been details that I missed.
Yeah,
then I just have a couple of more questions. A second question I have is with respect to your presentation about security. So when people are entering the business, are the doors locked by default and the security personnel screening the people before allowing them to enter?
There is a lobby where everyone has to get checked into the system before they can then go through into the showroom.
And how many security personnel will you have working on site?
There will always be one, but on busy days like 420 or 710 is a big holiday, we will probably have multiple security guards, but we are committed to always having one 24 hours a day at a minimum.
Okay, and finally, according to your projections, how many people customers do you have would you expect to be in the store at a given time? And how many vehicles would have to be accommodated? Because I have some concerns about people turning into the parking lot on San Pablo Dam Road, specifically people who are heading west on San Pablo Dam and may have to make a left into the parking lot. I would have, some concerns about street parking on San Pablo Dam because there's a lot of high density housing there and people do have cars. So my experience from walking around there is that there isn't really a lot of available parking. So that's something that would need to be, I'm not sure that the plans that you have fully address that. But
yeah, I think one of the things that we thought was good about this site is that it had over and above the required parking. So I don't know the specifics, Lauren. Maybe you can chime in if you do know off the top of your head. But I believe we had 4 or 5 extra parking spots on this site as was required by code.
Okay, and then finally, one final question, and I'll yield to my colleagues on the board and to the audience, and that is, how many employees do you expect to hire, and what measures specifically will you take to try and identify as many of them as possible in the El Sobrante, in our town? Because, we would like to boost, if there are good paying jobs with good benefits, we'd like to see as many of them as possible accrue to our residents.
Yeah, that's something that we're 100% committed to is hiring locally. It also,
yeah, how do you plan to carry that out?
Do you want me to?
Sure, I'm wondering the legality of asking them their address, but yeah, Lauren, if you want to take that question.
Well, our plan as far as advertising employment opportunities is to target people that are living in the immediate vicinity. So that would be working with local employment groups to try to identify potential applicants, and also actually hosting workshops on site, which would be free for potential applicants to give them like an overview of the position and kind of a little background on cannabis to maybe make them feel more comfortable during a job interview. But we are, primarily we do it by advertising through Contra Costa organizations. So like the Opportunity Junction and New Horizons, the EDD that's in the area, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. And then we do also use job sites like Indeed, but where you can actually specify that you're looking for people that live within a specific radius. So we really can tailor it to people that are in the vicinity of the location.
Okay. So I've taken up enough time. I'd like to yield to my colleagues
George,
on the board and then to the audience. Oh, Avi, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, just to add to that, the MAC is probably also a good tool for us to use. So if you guys know of individuals who are going to need employment, I'm happy to have their resumes forward over to us.
Okay. And reach out to the El Sobrante Chamber of Commerce as well.
Go ahead, George.
Okay, first of all, sorry for being very late to the meeting. Apologies on that. I have some questions. I can't remember. Avi, do you and your company, you actually have purchased the building itself, the site? Is that correct?
No, we have been in a very, very long escrow.
Oh, okay. Well, so you're in the process of buying it. Okay.
Yeah.
The concern about the parking is legitimate, especially with that narrow street. I'm going to ask a question. When you had your grand openings for your facilities down south, I think you have one in West Hollywood, and there's another one elsewhere. I can't remember. What was the traffic like on those days? I mean, can you gauge them, like the number of customers you had, or because the concern is that for a grand opening in that location, you're going to have potentially some very challenging traffic issues because it's right at that intersection. And as Mr. Lang said, people trying to make a left turn, even with a left turn lane in the middle, it's going to be very challenging. And how do you propose to mitigate that? Because when you first open, I'm going to be very blunt, pun intended. I'm probably going to be one of the people in line to come in and see what you got. So I'm just wondering how you're planning to mitigate that, especially you're saying, oh, they won't be able to park on La Colina. Well, how will you be able to prevent people from parking, and how will you be able to tell them from the people who actually live there that park in front of their houses, for example?
Yeah, I understand parking is the biggest concern. In West Hollywood, we think that the parking that we have here in El Sobrante is amazing because we have 5 spots in West Hollywood and we're seeing 250 to 300 people a day, and somehow it works. But as to addressing your specific question, we tend to do soft openings. So we like to iron out all of our kinks before we do a big old grand opening splash. So any issues that might arise, like people are parking on La Colina, for instance, and we need to hire an employee to stand out there and ensure that people aren't parking out there, are things that we can address before a problem gets so big that there's 300-400 people like yourself coming on one day and we're not ready to handle that kind of volume. So we don't do a traditional grand opening in the sense that you're thinking of.
Does the facility have a maximum occupancy number that you would post so that you don't have a potentially overcrowding and a potential fire hazard?
It definitely does. I do not know that number off the top of my head.
Okay. I'm just commenting. I'm looking forward to this. I love the concept of marrying art with cannabis. And what's your timeline? When do you think, I know COVID has thrown a wrench into things, but when do you think you have it open?
I would hope that Supervisor Joya knows possibly when we would be in front of the Planning Commission meeting. And after that, I assume it's got to go to Board of Supervisors and another, call it 4 to 6 months for build out. So 6 months after we have hopefully cleared Board of Supervisors.
Sometime hopefully.
My understanding on the process is it's scheduled for the Planning Commission later this month. That's what the Planning Department advised me. It is appealable to the Board of Supervisors. So the decision is final at the Planning Commission if it is not appealed within the requisite number of days. I'm not sure if it's 10 to the Board of Supervisors, and then it's final after the Board of Supervisors. So whether it goes to the Board of Supervisors depends on whether there's an appeal from the Planning Commission.
So given that timeline, I would hope to be open, call it sometime in June, probably June 2021.
Okay. Sometime late spring, early summer. Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you, George. Melinda, did you have, who came first, Tom or Melinda? Tom, did you have a?
Tom.
I'll let Melinda go.
Okay, just briefly. I think you're being incredibly optimistic that you think you'll be open next June, because you've left out the entire building department process. And as someone who's in the building department process right now with our project down at the other end of Appian Way, trust me, it'll take longer than you think.
I'm sure you're correct. The whole process has taken longer than I
Just wanted
thought.
to say that. I am one of the people beginning the Good Table, and Planting Justice is my partner. And I was very surprised to see their name on your list. And I'm just curious how you're connected to my partner. Or is that admiration from afar, or do you know our folks?
We don't know them personally. We've heard about the program, and it was really in line with some of the things that we're doing already in our other location with like social justice focused. And so we thought that we hopefully could help support them and work with them as part of our community benefit.
Okay, well, I've emailed Gavin and we'll reach out to you all to talk about one of the things that Planting Justice does, and we'll be doing at the Good Table, and we will be a business neighbor of yours down at the other end of Appian, because we're going in where the former Adachi Nursery was, is that we do reentry for folks who are hard to employ or are coming home from prison. And a lot of our folks are in very serious recovery. So it could get complicated, I'm just saying. We're not necessarily anti-cannabis or anything else, but, and I'm not expressing a strong view on this particular project, but that was just a little weird to see, to see our name there. When I haven't met you guys. So, and I don't think Gavin has either. So we'll look forward to meeting you.
One thing we don't like to do is to contact nonprofits before we've cleared a step like planning, where we don't know whether we're going to get through or not, and it's really up to the local community, and promise things that we can't give to them if we don't then get through the planning process.
Well, I understand that. That's why I thought it was really weird to see our name in your presentation.
Your name is somebody that we would love to partner with.
Okay, good. And like I said, we'll reach out and we'll have a conversation. But that's it. I was just a little surprised.
Okay. Thank you, Melinda. Tom, did you have a comment?
Yes, Abby and Lauren, the last time you came before the MAC, I think one of our biggest concerns was traffic flow. And I think, Lauren, in your presentation, you had something, but you went through it real quick. Have you worked out a plan with the county on getting the flow of traffic in and out of your parking lot properly?
So are you talking about the direction that you enter and exit on San Pablo?
Well, yeah, however you get it in and out.
Because it's weird if you make a left or a right. We did reconfigure the, let me see if I can pull up our site plan. I'm not going to share my screen, but I believe that we are reconfiguring the way the parking spaces are positioned. Is that correct? So it'll be easier.
Yeah, we're redoing the parking lot so it fits as best as it possibly can. At the same time as we're not allowing any customer parking on La Colina, as we've mentioned.
Okay, and I might suggest that as far as the parking for when you're first opening, you may have to have someone sort of doing that first block of La Colina, walking it and telling people they can't park there for your business.
Yeah, we can do those things. You know, if turning left out of the parking lot is also problematic, we could.
Very problematic.
Yeah, we can put up signs that say, right turn only, and have them turn around somewhere down the street.
Yeah.
That's the things that we hope to learn.
Closest one is about half mile down, but it's just the traffic flow I thought for that site was a little bit harsh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further? Oh, Mickey?
Yeah, I'm very excited about the prospects of having a beautiful cannabis dispensary in our neighborhood. I love the plans with the art and the whole thing. It looks like a beautiful design. It looks like an upgrade for that corner as well. I was wondering if there's any plans, like I know a big issue now in cannabis businesses and the whole movement is to also give some priority to some equity applicants, people who have been arrested for drug offenses. And I know in some cities and counties that's a priority as well. But anyway, I just want to lend my support that I think that it looks like a beautiful design. And I'm optimistic with your experience from your other businesses that you know how to work this out to the benefit of the community. So, I'm pro and looking forward to it, and wish you lots of luck with that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We look forward to having you at the store, and we do have one location in an area down here called Koreatown where we are working with a social equity individual. So we do have one of those stores as well.
So if there are no, thank you, Mickey. If there are no further questions from the board, I'd like to open it up to our audience. James, you can go and find who's got their hand up.
Chris, Mr. Conrad, unmute yourself.
All right, thanks. I also want to lend my support. I think that the only thing that I was happy to hear is that you don't want to have a cannabis leaf or something like that to help people find you. It seems to me like I like to see those around. I think there's a lot of the conversation tonight that kind of sounded like there's still more stigma against cannabis use, you know, when they're talking about blocking people from using it in their own homes if they want to have an inhaled form, and policing for signs, advertisements, and things like that I heard tonight. I didn't hear the kind of community support that I think that the passage of Prop 64 in our county really shows. So on behalf of what I didn't hear earlier tonight, I love the idea. Welcome to the community. I look forward to being there as soon as possible, and the sooner you get this going, the better as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Further comments from the audience?
No one that I'm seeing, sir.
Okay, I just have a question about process. When does our MAC input need to get to Jennifer Cruz?
As soon as possible.
Okay. So, are
you asking for a deadline?
Yeah, I'll take the liberty of crafting a resume of the discussion and sending it to you, James, for you to get it checked out by the other MAC members.
Will do.
And I'll try my best to convey the enthusiasm of, you know, some of the neighbors, and as well as, you know, some of the concerns. So.
Thank you everybody for having us. I am very sorry that we couldn't do it in person because I always love coming up there. So I do regret that, but looking forward to going in front of planning, and hopefully having some of your support in that endeavor would be very appreciated.
Avi and Lauren, thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Moving along.
Okay. So, okay, that was a good discussion. I guess now we have the section of the meeting, which is public comment on any issue that is of interest to commenters. So folks get 2 minutes to make a public comment. So do we have any comments from the audience?
Director Harry Weiner, go right ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to make an announcement that the West County Wastewater District has a vote drop-off box on site, and along with that, to mention that I'm running for the West County Wastewater District's director, and I'm on the ballot this November. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them. And I also
Go Harry.
have a website.
Go Harry.
Thank you, John. And I also have a website, www.wcwdcandidate.org. So for further information, please check that out. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Okay, Melinda?
Oh.
Just wanted to give you all a brief update on the good table.
Oh, great.
We are winding our way through the building department and through environmental health. We turned in 200 pages of spec sheets for our kitchens. 200 pages, plus 30 architectural drawings and we're waiting to hear back. And we have worked out our differences with the wastewater department and gotten that all handled. So we are winding our way through. There is a good chance, God willing, the creek don't rise, nothing else happens, and everything else, that we could begin construction in November. So hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. We have small socially distant work days on the last Saturdays, and our next one will be from 12 to 3 on Halloween. And so it's a very small group of volunteers. We're getting a lot done, but I just wanted to let you all know that it's beginning to feel like we're getting to construction. So if you're not on our list, go visit our website, etc. But thanks so much, and that's all I wanted to tell you.
So with 200 pages, are you going to get credit for a second doctoral thesis?
Colleen did that. And so I've told many of you that at the end of this project, I'm going to have a fake MBA graduation for all the legal stuff that I've done. But I think Colleen gets a fake architecture degree. We'll have a graduation. It'll be so much fun.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, thank you. Are there further comments?
Sydney? Unmute.
Oh, there, I lost my clicker. Melinda, is it this November or next November that you think the county's going to get to it?
No, I'm hoping that we will have a permit before sometime this November. Oh my God, if it's next November.
Sydney, don't go stir in the pot. It's been long enough, Sydney. Don't you go stir in the pot.
If it's next November, somebody's going to have to kill me.
Well, this thing has been so long in the works. I
know.
Okay. Well, thank you, Melinda. Are there further? Oh, go ahead, Mickey.
Well, I just wanted to see if we can try to get together a subcommittee meeting on illegal dumping. Seems like there's a lot of interest. I'm reading a lot on Nextdoor. People are always commenting there. And tonight there was more interest. And especially people were noticing like lots of dumping along I-80. And I was wondering if there's any possibility, I don't know what level this would be at, but having like a conservation corps or something, giving people jobs to clean up, the litter and the things along the highways and other ways. But anyway, I just like to propose that we try to have a Zoom illegal dumping committee at some point so we can give people, a forum and get people thinking about how we can address this, in a better way. And I'd also like to announce that we do have a page on the Contra Costa County El Sobrante MAC page about illegal dumping and who to call and some extra resources that are available. So is that something we could do, James? I mean, it'd be nice to.
We can definitely do that. I will ask of you, like I asked earlier in our meeting, ideas for the meeting, things that you think people want to discuss, send that over so that I can try to arrange if we need to have staff participation to give me enough time to do that. But any ideas that folks have that they think we should be discussing at the illegal dumping subcommittee meeting, what ideas you have or anyone else, feel free to share that with anyone. And all that's really waiting for us to have another meeting is for us to have an agenda. So let's put some ideas together for discussion topics, and we can absolutely have another meeting.
Okay. Thank you, James. Are there any further public comment items? If not, then information reports by MAC members.
Kind of the same as public comment.
Okay, same as public comment. Subcommittee reports. I think Mickey's statement about the illegal dumping subcommittee is probably quite a good subcommittee report. We can announce, do we still have the alternate seat vacancy?
We do, and I just received an application from the clerk of the board, so someone has applied, and I will
Excellent.
I will get back to them tomorrow, and then we will get an interview set up for this person.
Okay, so agenda items for the upcoming meeting. You know, it seems to me that there's a tremendous amount of community interest in
We won't be including
wildfire
fire. We
issue.
won't be including fire. We will definitely have fire representation, and we will try to get as many of these questions addressed as possible. You all are not alone. I am being, if you'll allow me, worn out from all of the West County communities that I'm the liaison to, including Bayview and Montalvan. The issue about fire safety and people's general awareness of what's happening and wanting something to do to prepare is very high on everyone's radar. And
I think that's a huge opportunity, right? Because if people weren't interested, there would be a lot that would slip. But because everybody's attention, everybody's radar is turned on full blast, I think it's a chance to get the message out. So I think that's going to be a major agenda item for next time.
Yep.
If it fits in, I'd like to see us cover the COVID situation. If the fire agenda permits that discussion, and then perhaps we can add another item on illegal dumping, so that our subcommittee could support our subcommittee and perhaps get the action going in that area. So
we'll definitely do that. And
I'll be reaching out to you and emailing you, James.
Thank you. I was going to say something else, but I can't recall. George?
So it's been such a while that my company has made a presentation to the MAC, as that would be East Bay Mud. Granted, we missed a bunch of meetings because of COVID, but I don't remember the last time they were here, and they could tell us what they've done in El Sobrante recently, over off of, over by Manor Market. That's where they did the work over there. And then on my street, my neighborhood, they replaced the mains. I'm going to toot the horn of my company. Our field staff that did the work in our neighborhood, they are awesome. So, but it would be nice for them for public information to come and tell us this is what we've done and maybe anything that's going on. Because remember, we had that webinar for the Maloney Reservoir, and that could have been done better. That's all I'll say. The webinar itself it was very unparticipatory. So anyhow, but just for the next meeting, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, can you come to the MAC? We haven't seen you in a while. So
I will email Charlotte, and Ianad tonight.
Well, here's the thing.
Or you can email me who I need to email, and I can do it.
I'm not sure who you do, because I think Charlotte is still on maternity leave.
Okay.
Ianad was on a temporary, like a 6-month temporary stint, and that ended. So
okay.
Not sure.
Then do tell me who I need to email. Then send me the person's contact.
Okay, I don't know who it is, so I will find out. I will write a note.
The only other contact I have is for the general manager, and I'm not emailing the general manager a question for the PIO.
Well, you sure you got the right GM on there?
Yep.
Oh, it's Clifford, right? Okay. All right.
So 2 people wave at me before we conclude the meeting. Were those comments, or were those folks saying bye? Because there's almost no one on anymore.
They probably were saying goodbye.
All right.
So I guess that we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for sticking through 2.5 hours. You're all warriors.
Thank you. It was not intended to be that long. I appreciate you all. We will see you next month. Any questions, ideas, suggestions, please send them to me.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.